You know, was it really that bad?
7 million.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
Welcome to my Matrocity review of Superman 3. I haven't done a Matrocity review in almost a full year, so I figured it was the perfect opportunity to talk about Superman 3. And since Christopher Reeves would have turned 71, rest in peace to Christopher Reeve, and I figured I didn't want to get really disrespectful with it with Superman 4. I feel like that's not a great one to look at for him, but I also don't want to look at his amazing Superman movies either yet, so I'm just going to set for the middle ground with Superman 3, which a lot of people consider a very bad Superman movie, and I have to agree. But at the same time, is the movie really as bad as what everyone's saying?
Good guess, but actually no.
In a lot of elements, yes, it's a terrible, terrible movie. At the same time, no. So it's just that middle ground, but at the same time, I'm still putting it under the Matrocity segment because I really want to find myself watching this again. But there are a few key scenes that I could see myself watching again. Alright, number one, we gotta talk about Richard Donner did not return to direct this movie, and you can definitely feel that in the overall vision of this movie. This movie takes on a more comedic tone overall, and I gotta say, for me personally, a lot of it did not work. This movie, even though they're trying to be comedic, it's not very funny. And that's what makes this movie very unbearable at times, is the fact that it's trying to be funny, but you should know, if you have to try to be funny, then you're not funny. And to bring more of a comedic tone, they introduce Richard Pryor in this movie as Gus, one of the main antagonists of the movie. Or is he really an antagonist? A lot of people would say no. I say yes. Trying to kill Superman still counts as a crime and manslaughter, so by all means, criminal. They try to play it off like, oh, he turns at the end, he's a good guy. No, he's not. Let's be honest here. If you try to kill somebody throughout the entire movie and you try to, quote unquote, learn a lesson by the end, you still count as a criminal. That's how you know this is a Superman movie, because even with Batman, he would have still locked him up in like Arkham Asylum or something. Talking more on Gus. Gus in this movie essentially is unemployed for 35 weeks, and they basically say he is no longer qualified for unemployment because he's a bum. And you know, they try to make you feel for this guy, they try to make you understand this character, but this is just a terrible character introduction. He is a bum, right? And he has a lot of potential, but he's never utilized it, and that's the whole point in this movie. But at the same time, this already makes me not want to care about this character, because I'm like, I already don't like him. And they try to throw some humor in with him because, you know, it's Richard Pryor, so he's got to be comedic in this movie, and unfortunately, it does not work. The comedy in this movie really is not hitting. And they also do something interesting with the opening credits with this movie as well, and try to make it a little bit more comedic as well, where essentially the entire opening is just a bunch of series of events that are kind of Looney Tune-ish. Like, we have people tripping over each other, they're over destroying things. Like, this is like a Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote type of like mistakes and accidents. Like, this is very cartoony. But I will admit, there is a funny part in this scene where Superman changes in a photo booth and the kid accidentally takes some photos of him changing in there, so he has to snatch off a certain part of the pictures that has him as Clark Kent.
Say thank you.
So the character of Gus basically gets employed at this computer company where essentially he figures out some programming. They never really truly explain all of it. It's just convenient to the plot. And essentially he uses these systems to change his paychecks over time because he is very unsatisfied with his paychecks. He changes it to like $100 and something thousand instead, like they wouldn't notice that. Of course, this gets him in trouble with the computer company, and they decide to have a talk with him, and these are the main villains of the movie, which I'm not going to refer to them by their names because that's what they are, main villains. Stereotypical mustache twirlers. I mean, come on now. Like, how stereotypical can we get with some of these guys? We have to kill Superman. Clark Kent has to go back to Smallville for a high school reunion, which I will say this part of the movie is actually very satisfying. This is actually the best parts in the movie, in my opinion. It starts off with him having a power plant rescue where essentially he has to save his power plant, and that's a really decent action scene. I mean, I thought it was very solid, and the effects work that they had in there where they had just a bunch of explosions and Superman walking through fire and using his ice breath to take out fire, I thought was a really decent action scene. So as Clark is at the high school dance in Smallville, or a high school, I guess, reunion, he runs into his old love interest, Lana Lang, and I gotta say, again, these are some of the best moments in the movie because clearly there's a story there that I feel like could have been explored in the fourth movie. And I'll touch about that in a second, but their introduction and them catching up was really, really sweet. And this scene also got the biggest laugh out of me in the entire movie. So dorky, but this is why I gotta say this movie, after rewatching this movie, I haven't watched this movie in years, I can clearly say that I'm starting to see why people say that Christopher Reeves is their favorite Superman. For the longest time, for me, it was Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill got me into the character of Superman, along with the anime series. But I'm starting to see why people love Christopher Reeves as Superman, because he does a great job playing Clark Kent. It's a disguise. It's not just the glasses that he throws on like in other versions, because Clark Kent in comics is not really dorky. But I see why they did it with this interpretation, because it sells it more. The way he hunches over, his body language, how clumsy he is. That's a good cover. Like, you would not really assume that this clumsy, like Josh Willikers type of guy to be Superman. When he is Superman, he's so reassuring around people as he's rescuing them that I'm starting to see why people say symbol of hope. I really am. And I think this movie, after watching it, has maybe won me over on Christopher Reeve's interpretation of Superman. I also love Lana and Clark as a relationship in this movie more than Lois, because Lois loves Superman but doesn't give a flying about Clark Kent. Is every time they mention, they're like, oh, you and Clark? She's like, oh, me and Clark? Ugh. But to see a character who likes Clark Kent for Clark Kent, who he actually is, it's kind of refreshing. I mean, I actually, by the end of the movie, was rooting for him and Lana to get together more than Lois. And that's the storyline I'm talking about, where I feel like they could have went somewhere with that in Superman 4. But we all know how that movie turned out, and I gotta wait to get to a milestone to review that one. Richard Pryor, again, in this movie, is not funny, and I know he's not like this. He's actually a very funny comedian. Like, he's not meant to be this embarrassing. This is embarrassingly bad with how bad the jokes are for him.
As you were. Now listen up. I just came in directly from the Pentagon, and you better believe there's a damn good reason that I did. Because God has given us one of the greatest gifts in the world. Chemicals. Now you people, you like to go sit in church on Sunday, don't you? Yeah. You like to sit and watch the Super Bowl. Yeah. Sit on what? Shut up!
Main villains, for some reason, try to destroy Columbia. I didn't really care about the reasoning. It's just mustache trolling villains. I mean, nothing really compelling for me there. They try to destroy Columbia, and Superman gets in the way of their plans. Now, because of this, they tried to make kryptonite. apparently everybody out in public just knows Superman's weakness of kryptonite. I mean, the stuff's so easily accessible in the Superman universe that at this point everybody could beat Superman. All of the seriousness, they decide to substitute a small substance that kryptonite is made of because they couldn't discover this element, and they decide to substitute with, I believe, like tobacco or something. I don't know. This has a really weird effect where it's basically disguised as an army general or something, like this would ever pass through while Superman's getting the key to a city or something. Gus decides to give him the fake kryptonite, and instead of weakening him, it turns him into evil Superman. And best part of the movie is evil Superman for sure. The dude is just, he's just awesome. Guy causes pollution. The guy straight up goes to bars and gets drunk. Guy has anxiety attacks on public crowds.
What are you looking at? Huh?
And he has sex with random women.
Champagne?
Yeah, boy.
Is it evil to have sex with a woman? But the scene that people mostly remember this movie for, and I gotta admit, I didn't remember a ton of stuff in this movie. I definitely always remembered that evil Superman versus Clark Kent scene. It's just so entertaining to see the back and forth that these two have. Christopher Reeves does a good job portraying both of them at the same time.
Yeah? Alright. Come on, come on!
And the effects that they had in this movie of having both evil Superman and Clark Kent on screen at the same time was almost on par with The Flash, which at the time is incredible. Ultimately, Clark Kent is victorious, turning back into regular Superman, costume all clean and everything, 5 o'clock shadow gone, dark hair, emo hair gone, tanning on him gone, which I guess tan skin equals evil. And we have our very uninteresting finale where Superman basically has to fight a giant video game and a Terminator Edward Scissorhands. I got nothing. Which Superman shows that Gus learns a lesson because he saves him at the end even though he was trying to kill him earlier in the movie. They all learn a lesson. For some reason, Lois Lane gets jealous of Clark giving Lana a diamond ring, which I'm like, screw you, woman. You completely reject Clark Kent all the time, and now you care what he does with his life? Man, screw off, Lois. And the movie ends. Look, Superman 3 has a lot of bad stuff in this movie. I would even argue that 60 to 70% of this movie is not rewatchable for me, personally. But there are select parts in this movie that I actually really enjoy. Clark Kent in Smallville, all those scenes, great. Evil Superman, great. Everything outside of that, I don't care. And that's why this movie is on the Matrocity segment, even though is it as bad as what people are saying? No, it's not Superman 4 bad. I mean, that's like true Matrocity. But I would still put it under Matrocity segment, but barely. I mean, I would say probably even a couple of rewatches will probably get this out of the Matrocity segment. But for right now, it's staying in the segment for obvious reasons. And yeah, that's my review of Superman 3, you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my review. Comment below if you want me to review any more things regarding superheroes or media, whatever media you want me to review. Like, share, and subscribe today to join Nazilization.